Have you ever wondered how crucial a role salt plays in our daily lives? This humble compound is far more than just a seasoning. It's a preservative, a cleanser, and an essential nutrient for our bodies. Throughout history, salt has been revered and fought over, playing a key role in economies and societies across the globe. From the ancient Egyptians using it to mummify their dead, to the Romans paying their soldiers in sal, the Latin root of our modern word salary, salt's influence is undeniable. In many cultures, it symbolizes purity and hospitality, its presence at the dinner table a sign of respect and care. But what happens when something so basic, so integral to our lives, becomes a tool of control? Enter the world of salt laws, regulations that controlled the production, distribution, and taxation of salt. The control of this essential commodity has been a source of power, often leading to conflicts and revolutions. One of the most notable instances of salt laws were those imposed by the British in India. Now, what were these salt laws? In essence, they were a series of regulations enacted by the British colonial government that gave them a monopoly over the production and sale of salt in India. Now, you might be thinking, salt, why salt? Well, salt is a basic necessity of life, used not just for flavoring food but also for preserving it. In the sweltering heat of India, salt was crucial for the preservation of food and the prevention of diseases. So when the British took control of this essential commodity, they effectively took control of a significant aspect of everyday life in India. But their control didn't stop at just monopolizing the production. They also imposed a salt tax, making it illegal for anyone but the British government to produce or sell salt. This meant that even the poorest of the poor had to pay for something that was, quite literally, available in abundance in their own country. This was more than just a financial burden on the Indian people. It was a symbol of the British Empire's oppressive rule, an embodiment of their control over the resources and lives of the Indian people. The salt laws were, in many ways, a microcosm of the broader injustices of colonial rule. You see, the British didn't just want to control the salt, they wanted to control the people. They wanted to control India. And through these salt laws, they were able to exert their power and dominance over an entire nation, using something as simple and essential as salt as a tool of oppression. But the Indian people, as we'll see in the scenes to come, weren't about to let this stand. They recognized the injustice of these laws and the broader colonial system they represented, and they would rise up against it, led by a man named Mahatma Gandhi in a non-violent resistance movement that would come to be known as the Salt Satyagraha. These laws were not just about controlling a commodity, but about controlling an entire nation. In response to these laws, a peaceful form of protest was born, the Salt Satyagraha. This was an innovative approach to civil disobedience introduced by none other than Mahatma Gandhi, a figurehead of Indian nationalism and a symbol of resistance against British rule. Satyagraha, a Sanskrit term, is a combination of two words. Satya, meaning truth, and agraha, meaning insistence. Thus, Satyagraha implies the insistence on truth. For Gandhi, it was a moral philosophy, a way of life that called for truth and non-violence, not just as strategies, but as fundamental principles. He believed that through truth and non-violence, one could appeal to the oppressor's morality and conscience, thereby encouraging change without resorting to violence. The Salt Satyagraha was a perfect embodiment of this philosophy. It was a non-violent protest against the oppressive salt laws imposed by the British. But how could something as common as salt become the symbol of a national movement? Salt, an everyday necessity, was heavily taxed by the British, making it unaffordable for the poor majority. By choosing salt as the focal point of his protest, Gandhi aimed to unite Indians across the socio-economic spectrum against a common adversary. It was a brilliant strategy that highlighted the unjustness of the British rule while also making a strong statement to the world about India's determination for self-rule. And thus, the Salt March was born. This historic 240-mile journey, led by Gandhi from Sabarmati Ashram to the coastal village of Dandi, was a key event in the Salt Satyagraha. It was a peaceful demonstration against the salt laws, where Gandhi and his followers produced salt from the sea, openly defying the British authorities. The Salt Satyagraha was more than just a protest. It was an assertion of the Indian spirit of resistance and resilience. It demonstrated the power of peaceful protest and the strength of unity in the face of oppression. This movement was a turning point not just in India's struggle for freedom, but in the global fight for civil rights. The Salt March, a 240-mile journey, was more than just a protest. It was a powerful statement. This was a movement led by none other than Mahatma Gandhi, a man of peace, resolve, and indomitable spirit. The march began on the 12th of March, 1930, from the Sabarmati Ashram with Gandhi and a chosen band of 78 followers. Their destination? The coastal village of Dandi on the Arabian Sea. Every step taken on this march was a rebellion, a deliberate act of defiance against the oppressive British salt laws. The marchers covered about 12 miles each day, stopping at villages along the way to spread their message of non-violent resistance. Each footfall echoed with the collective heartbeat of a nation yearning for freedom. But the climax of this journey wasn't merely their arrival at Dandi. On the 6th of April 1930, after 24 days of marching, it was the simple act of bending down and picking up a handful of natural salt from the seashore. A pinch of salt, insignificant in itself, but monumental in its implications. Gandhi and his followers had made their own salt, defying the British salt laws. This act, simple yet profound, had a ripple effect across the nation. Thousands of Indians followed suit, making their own salt, and thus breaking the law. They had taken up Gandhi's call for civil disobedience, turning the Salt March into a mass movement. It wasn't just about the salt anymore. It was about a nation's right to its natural resources, about the dignity of its people, about freedom from foreign rule. The Salt March was a symbol of resistance, a testament to the will of a subjugated people, and a beacon of hope in the struggle for independence. This simple act of making salt was a direct challenge to the British Empire, shaking its very foundations. The Salt March was an extraordinary show of non-violent defiance that sparked a flame, illuminating the path to India's freedom. The echoes of this historic march still reverberate today, reminding us of the power of peaceful protest and the indomitable spirit of humanity. The Salt Satyagraha left a profound legacy that transcends borders and time. The simple act of making salt, a humble commodity, became a catalyst for a nationwide movement that shook the foundations of the British Empire in India. But the ripples of this audacious act of civil disobedience didn't stop at the borders of the Indian subcontinent. They reverberated across the globe, inspiring numerous movements and shaping the course of history. In the aftermath of the Salt Satyagraha, India's fight for independence gained momentum. The Salt March had drawn the attention of the world, and the British could no longer ignore the calls for change. The Satyagraha was a turning point. It marked the beginning of the end of British rule in India. But the legacy of the Salt Satyagraha goes beyond India's independence. It became a blueprint for peaceful resistance that influenced other movements worldwide. Martin Luther King Jr., a beacon of the civil rights movement in the United States, was inspired by Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence and civil disobedience. He saw in the Salt Satyagraha a model to confront the injustices of racial segregation. Moreover, the Salt Satyagraha's relevance is not confined to the annals of history. Even in the modern world, it continues to inspire. It serves as a reminder that change begins at the grassroots level, that ordinary people have the power to challenge unjust systems, and that peaceful resistance can bring about transformative change. In a world where conflicts and power struggles still exist, the Salt Satyagraha's legacy is a beacon of hope. It tells us that we can stand up against oppression, that we can question the status quo, and that we can do so without resorting to violence. The Salt Satyagraha, a simple act of defiance against an unjust salt law, therefore, carries with it a profound message. It underscores the power of the many over the few and the strength of nonviolent resistance. The Salt Satyagraha serves as a reminder that even the most humble of commodities, like salt, can be a powerful symbol of resistance and change. From a simple commodity to a symbol of resistance, the journey of salt in history is truly remarkable. We began with the British salt laws, a tax imposed that not only burdened the common man, but also symbolized the colonial control over the most basic necessity. This was the seed that sprouted into the Salt Satyagraha, a peaceful protest led by Mahatma Gandhi, a movement that challenged the oppressive laws through non-violent means and paved the way for the iconic Salt March. Gandhi, accompanied by thousands, walked 240 miles to the Arabian Sea, making their own salt and defying the British rule. This act of civil disobedience rippled across the nation, inspiring millions and marking a pivotal moment in India's fight for independence. And its legacy? It still echoes today, reminding us of the power of peaceful protest and the indomitable spirit of those who dare to challenge oppression. The story of Salt is a testament to the power of peaceful protest and the indomitable spirit of those who dare to challenge oppression.